views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
All right, coming up on this edition of Today's Verdict, the new Secure Act signed by President Trump has made significant changes to your retirement savings as well as to your employee benefits. How will you be impacted, and how do you protect your hard-earned money? We have an expert who will guide us through the new legislation. Next up, commuters who are considered by our government to be living below the federal poverty line can now apply for reduced MetroCards. It helps cuts the cost of train and some bus fares in half. We'll tell you all of the requirements and where you can sign up. And finally, federal prosecutors in New York are asking New York City to provide immigration authorities with information concerning inmates who are in the country unlawfully. This request is the result of an ongoing conflict between the Trump administration and sanctuary policies. While an immigration attorney joins us in studio to give us the latest. As you can see, we have much to get to, so stay tuned. Today's Verdict starts right now. All right, hello and welcome to Today's Verdict, a live and interactive show that gives you your legal rights and options. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesch. Well, Today's Verdict is always encouraging you to stay connected. Make sure to tweet us at Today's Verdict and hashtag Ask Today's Verdict if you have a question. Also, make sure to like us and follow us on Facebook at Today's Verdicts and check us out at bronxnet.tv. Well, with the signing of the new Secure Act by President Trump, there have been changes made to your retirement plans as well as to your employee benefits. Well, here to tell us more is attorney Ronald Fatula. Ronald, thanks for being here.
Thank you, David.
Let's get to this Secure Act. I don't even know what it stands for.
Well, it's an acronym,
okay,
as you hear all the time. Secure Act actually stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement.
All right, let's.
However, sometimes I call it the Insecure Act.
Right, it doesn't sound like it's so secure. Let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
Let's give the viewers a little bit of a history as to what the law was in terms of your retirement accounts prior to this new Secure Act. Well, give us a little history here.
Well, a little bit of the basics. When you name a spouse as a beneficiary of, let's say, an IRA, that spouse can roll over the deceased spouse's IRA into her own or his own and just treat it as his own.
Okay, and so
with no restriction whatsoever.
So let's say in the past, let's say, I had contributed to my IRA and I passed away. My wife can then take it over intervals of her life until she's no longer living. Am I correct?
Used to start at age 70 and a half.
Okay.
She takes it over her life expectancy. We have clients who are 90 years old, still taking required minimum distributions.
Okay. There's been a change.
Yes.
Why? What's the impetus for the change?
The impetus was that so many Americans did not have retirement accounts, and especially those employees of employers that are fairly small. I'd say that at least the stats show that about 40% of Americans don't have retirement savings.
Now, why is that? Is that because they don't realize that they could be offered an opportunity to put away money? They don't have the money to put away, or maybe a combination of both?
I think it's a combination, but many small companies actually don't have retirement plans. And the Secure Act actually makes it easier for companies to set up retirement plans.
Okay, now, from what I'm reading, there are some advantages and some disadvantages. And one of the disadvantages that pops out to me is that sometimes you'd want the ability to take the money later in life because when you take it out of the account, you are being taxed on it. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how does that play out? In other words, how has that been changed?
Okay, sure. Well, there's one of the advantages. Instead of having to take out your required minimum distributions at age 70 and a half, an unusual age, they raise it to age 72. So individuals that have retirement accounts now could wait till age 72.
Well, that's a benefit.
It's a huge benefit.
Well, because I mean, listen, we're getting older in terms of our life expectancy. So,
Yeah.
So you move from 70 to 72. But, however, the benefit though is not to the spouses or to the children who are really named as the beneficiaries. Am I correct?
Well, the spouse is treated the same. There's still a rollover.
Okay.
Exactly the same.
What changes then? The children.
The children. Non-spouse beneficiaries are very much affected.
Okay, so let's give like a hypothetical here.
Sure.
So unfortunately, something happens to me, but I had a nice retirement account for my son,
Right.
and the government says, no, you can't wait and take it over a period of time. You have to take this money now that you're 30 years old.
Right.
And my son, who maybe has a higher tax bracket at this point, says, wait a second, I don't want it now. I don't need it now. I'm paying high taxes. Fair or not fair? What do you think?
Not fair.
Not fair.
Not fair at all. Your son would have been able to take it over his life expectancy based on IRS charts. So at age 30, it might be another 50 years or so. I mean, that's a long time.
It is.
A small amount of money growing tax deferred, he would just have to take the minimum out every year.
And basically, the IRS wants their money, is really what we're saying
They want
here.
their money.
It's,
right.
the quicker we can get it. What is this with, I hear about a 10-year period. What are they talking about? Because that's a little confusing.
Right. So if there's a non-spouse beneficiary of an IRA, there's a 10-year period in which you must take your IRAs out. 10 years. So you can't let the IRA sit there for the beneficiary's life expectancy.
Gotcha.
That's a huge, huge difference. If you look at the statistics, a small amount of money growing tax deferred over, let's say, 50 years makes a lot of money.
Now, is that because it's invested in markets, or is it just, I don't know, just percentages that you're getting as interest in the bank?
Well, yeah, but it's growing tax deferred.
Tax deferred.
Yeah, except for those small distributions. At age 30, the distributions are going to be, not all that much.
Seem to be a couple of other benefits from this Secure Act. One of them that I liked was the ability to take the money out of your IRA and pay off your child's student loan.
Exactly.
At least a portion of it.
The Secure Act also provided if there's a 529 plan for a child, lots of parents, grandparents set up these 529 plans, let's say for grandchildren. Now you could take $10,000 out and use it to pay off a student loan, which is a wonderful benefit without a penalty.
So if my child had a student loan, let's say they were a year or two out, and they either having trouble paying it off, and this is important for a lot of people to understand this. As a parent, you can say, look, I'm taking $10,000 out of this account, and I'm paying off 10 grand. But that's it, though. You can't go more than 10.
It's 10 grand.
What if you have other kids? What if you have other children?
I believe it's per child.
Per child.
Yes.
You have 4 kids, $40,000.
I believe that's the case.
But that's a nice benefit to
It's
give your
huge.
children, so that you're not penalized.
Right.
Any other benefits of it that you really like?
Yeah, well, this is a minor benefit, but if there's a birth of a child or an adoption, you could take $5,000 out, penalty-free.
To do what? Just to help out.
Hey, as I know and you know, a child is
Right.
expensive
Okay, but so
nowadays.
you have a baby or you
right.
adopt a child
If you do it within 1 year of the birth.
within 1 year.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Question, penalties. In terms of paying penalties, has there been any change in the law with respect to that?
No, but because of the way the law is structured, the penalty could be huge. Can I give you an example?
Please, could you do that?
It's crazy. So if you have a non-spouse beneficiary, let's say you name a child as beneficiary. Now the child cannot take over his or her life expectancy, has to take out everything within a 10-year period. Could take everything out right before that 10 years, the day before. But what if they don't?
Yeah, what happens?
The law stays the same. There's a 50% penalty on what you should have taken out.
50%.
50% penalty.
Not like the 10% that you have to pay when you pay it back or something, we take it out. 50%.
Right. So you have to really know what you're doing.
Which means they should actually be talking to you. Where do people find you if they need to get in touch with you?
Sure. I could be reached at 212. Well, let me give you my 718
Sure,
number.
please.
718-261-1700. We have a Long Island office, 516-466-4422.
Okay, and the best advice you can give somebody today, they're watching, they don't have an IRA or any kind of retirement account, Let them have it.
Set up an IRA. Let that money grow tax deferred. It's the best thing to do. Go to an expert. Go to somebody who knows about this, who could plan for you.
And it grows.
And it grows, and you may want to convert the IRA into a Roth. There's other planning techniques, and there are exceptions to the 10-year rules.
All right, well, we're going to have you back because there's so much more to talk about.
Sure. Thank you so much, David.
It's my pleasure. We have to take a quick break, but don't worry, we'll be back with more Today's Verdict right after this. Today's Verdict. I'm your host, David Lesch. We're always encouraging you to stay connected at Today's Verdict. Tweet us, please. Low-income New Yorkers are getting a break from the MTA with this new initiative, Fair Fare. This helps cut the cost of train and bus fares in half. Here to tell us more is Dana Dennis from the Riders Alliance in New York. Welcome, Dana. I was looking forward to your segment because I think this is such an important thing to know about. But tell me a little bit about your organization, if you could.
Yeah, thanks, David. The Riders Alliance is a citywide organization. We're grassroots. We are made up of riders like yourself. I'm just assuming.
I am a rider. I'm a subway guy.
Great. So we are made up of riders of the subway or the bus, any form of public transit in New York City, in any of the 5 boroughs. We particularly organize in the outer boroughs and also have general meetings in Manhattan. And so what we do is we fight on the state and city level for better transit. And that means a lot of different things. That means affordability, accessibility, and then overall just being able to get to work, school on time, and various places that we use transit to go to.
A lot of people don't have the funds to be able to even take public transportation, right? Forget about a car, just to be able to get around the city. Right? Tell me a little bit about the initiative.
So Fair Fares is a program that we fought for about 3 years, along with our coalition partner, Community Service Society. They did a report back in 2015 and really recognized the numbers. We were looking at that point, I think, at like 800,000 New Yorkers who were at or below the federal poverty line, which is a single individual making $12,500 or less, or a family of 4 making up to $27,000 or less. And though that was the number that really captured, I mean, there are tons of folks, you know, who even go above that number who are struggling, but these were the people who we would see, and we still see a lot of them at the turnstiles having tax or swipes, negotiating with bus drivers or people at the turnstile, or, you know, possibly getting some type of fine. And in recognizing that, we were like, okay, we have to do something. If we're fighting on transit, we're transit advocates, this is a need. And so we started to lobby at the city level. The mayor at that time was running an initiative of the Fair City. And so we thought that it was a good program. We reached out and got an overwhelming support of city council. And then in 2018, we actually got Fair Fares approved and started as of January 1st of 2019.
Of last year.
Yes,
But,
so it's been
but it's
a year.
funny, though, I don't know how many people really know about it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So I will tell you why.
Sure.
In the first year, and let me be clear, in the first year we got 100,000 users, just even with not a lot of people knowing about it. So it shows there really is a need. But it rolled out in phases. The city is not responsible for the MTA. The state is. The governor is the head of the MTA. So it's Cuomo's MTA. He runs it at a state level. This is the first time, Fair Fares is the first time that the city took on subsidizing a program for transit. And so for them to have to do some type of fare program, and they don't produce the Metro cards, they don't have the metrics, they teamed up with HRA, which is a city-run agency, to kind of capture at first the people that they could. And those people are people who already have some type of state or city assistance, usually food stamps through a SNAP program, or they may be living in public housing or NYCHA or something like that.
Which leads me to the question of, if you have other benefits, let's say, does this prevent you for applying to this for these benefits?
So something like SNAP, which is a food stamp program, or HRA or WIC or anything like that, no, those would not prevent you. However, if you are receiving a subsidy for a MetroCard through any
That
other
might be
program,
different.
then that is
Okay,
different.
but if you have
we would have-
nothing, you're not getting anything with
No.
respect to riding around the city in
Yeah.
public, this is for you.
You could have been a person who has never applied for any kind of benefit ever. As long as you are a New York City resident, you are between employed or unemployed at this point. At first, it was just employed in the first phase. Employed or unemployed, documented or undocumented, between the ages of 18 to 64. So our students already get a MetroCard, our seniors already get a MetroCard, and folks who have a qualifying disability already get help and get a subsidy. These are for folks in between.
You know, it's almost like you can't really complain that the city may not be getting as much, or the state isn't getting as much money from the subway ridership because of this. Because there could be people who wouldn't be buying cards at all because they'd be beating the fares, jumping turnstiles, going through the back of the bus. This gives them impetus to actually buy a MetroCard and to use a MetroCard, and they're saving half.
No, definitely.
It's monies you may not even be getting.
Fair fares is a big solution to what is considered fare evasion in this city, and then also not just folks who are having tax or swipes or, like you said, hop turnstiles or take that risk.
Just need it.
There are just folks who are really standing there and going, "Do I get lunch today or do I put money on this card?"
Was there a negotiation as to 50, 25%, 75%, or was it always just we're going to cut it in half?
It was always kind of assumed 50%. I mean,
50%.
obviously the legislation could have went a different way in the budget depending on what was needed. But what has been put into the budget is $106 million.
Wow.
The mayor's administration approved it. Corey Johnson, our speaker, currently has kind of championed it in a way. And the city council, like I said, really supports. And so we are very thankful to have it be approved. The first year was a rollout that took time in phases. As of January 27, 2020, so just last week actually, we have now opened up the program to any resident. At first, you had to be, kind of in these qualifying factors, receive a letter. Now you can go down to a Fair Fare Center. So,
But this is important. Immigration status, does that matter?
no. So documented or undocumented, employed or unemployed.
Doesn't matter. No
does
questions
not matter.
asked.
If you are a New York City resident,
You
if
can
you live
apply.
in this city within the 5 boroughs, you can apply. And
How do you apply?
That's a good question. So you can go to the city's website from your phone, tablet, right where you stand while you're on the bus, on the subway. It is going to be nyc.gov/fairfares. You can go to that website. You can fill out an application. I think it takes 3 minutes or less to fill that out. Or you can go down to one of the Fair Fare centers. The local one here in the Bronx is at 1309 Fulton Avenue.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's only one wrench I want to throw in here, which is not a big one, is that what prevents somebody from taking a card and giving it to somebody who doesn't deserve the card, who could use it for months on end?
Good question. I mean, that question has definitely come up.
Has it?
Obviously, we do not want that to happen. Ways to prevent it, I'm not sure. I mean, there's not too much as you can do around me giving you my unlimited right now.
Well, I was going
It's
to
the
say,
same
and
thing
you
as
can
me
refill your
asking
card
you.
though, can't you, with this,
You
with
can.
this program?
So the card is actually, and that's a good question. What do you receive? What is Fair Fares, right? You receive a MetroCard. It looks the same as any other MetroCard. The only thing that shows that it's different is there's a small FF on the back. If you go down to the centers, they give you the MetroCard on the spot. If you apply online through your phone or tablet, they mail it to your home. You can go to the machine or the booth. You can refill the MetroCard as you do any other MetroCard from any level, from $275 a single ride all the way up to a monthly unlimited.
Unlimited,
And
okay.
it's 50% off regardless of where you swipe it. Folks you need to know that you're getting a subsidy. That's not anyone's business. It won't show in any way.
What we really need to know is we need people to find out about this
We
plan.
do. We need people to find out. And so we're doing a lot of outreach. But if people want more information, again, they can go to the city's website or they can go to ours, which is info@ridersalliance.org.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
best tip you want to give someone who's watching today?
I would say get involved. If you're frustrated about your transit system, you are stressed about the affordability of it, find out what's going on at our website.
Can I get the 6 train to get here a little bit faster? Is that possible?
Yeah, that would be great. I was on
working
a
on that, I
little
really am.
delayed D train. We're working on it big time.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank
Great
you so
stuff.
much, David. I appreciate it.
All right, well, we have to take a quick break, but don't worry. We'll be right back right after this. All right, the escalating conflict between Trump's administration and sanctuary policies is continuing. Do New York City officials have a duty to report the arrest of illegal aliens to ICE? It still not clear. Here to tell us more, we're welcoming back attorney Laimari Casta. Hi, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
All right, this topic is very timely and very controversial. Let's get right to it. Someone's been arrested. That particular person is not legal, is here illegally. Federal government wants to know about it. Federal government wants to possibly deport. What is going on with federal government, New York City, New York State? Everyone seems to be a little on edge here. Let's give us a little bit of a rundown of what's been happening here, if you could.
Absolutely. So New York City, it's a sanctuary city. It's a city that provides a safer city for immigrants. And that includes also, within their policies, they limit cooperation with the federal government when somebody has been arrested. Right now, after 2015, when Mayor de Blasio actually passed into law these bills that say that they are not to cooperate with ICE when it comes to detainers.
This is all about really federalism from what I see. It's basically, the competing interests always of the federal government and the states, and who has the right to be able to make their own decisions. If somebody is arrested and they're brought into the court system, and we're just really talking about the federal judges at this point, really, is there or even the state judges, is there any obligation to turn over information to ICE at all, or is there not an obligation? Where do we currently stand with that?
Well, under the Immigration and Naturalization Act, ICE agents, for example, which are the ones involved here, have a right to seek a subpoena to get information and evidence pursuant a criminal or civil investigation, and they could seek that from a federal judge.
Well, so let's say I wanted some information. I'm a federal prosecutor, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to find out some information about the accused and their immigration status. Does the judge actually sign the subpoena, just review the subpoena, and then kicks it back and says, I'm not going to sign the subpoena? How does it usually work in terms of the logistics of it? Are you handing it to the judge and saying, Judge, can we get this information? Is the judge just ignoring the information? In reality, what is really happening?
I mean, according to ICE, what is going on is that they use that as a last resort when a city doesn't cooperate with the request for evidence. So this is not a commonly used strategy from ICE. A judge can absolutely issue the subpoena. Right now, we have requests for subpoenas pending before two district judges here in New York, and we don't know yet what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, we don't know if they're complying at all. In other words, are the judges signing the subpoenas and then no one's complying with the subpoena, or the judges not even signing the subpoenas? That's what I'd like to know.
As of right now, nothing has happened, so they're pending at this moment.
Okay, so let's say at this point it does get signed and information is turned over that this particular inmate who's on trial or about to be tried is here illegally. Do we, in terms of New York City or New York State, do we have any legal backing to be able to prevent the deportation at this point, or do we not have?
Well, the law in New York City states that we are not to cooperate with requests for information or detainers from ICE unless there are three situations. One of them being a federal judge subpoena or warrant. So if the judge issues the subpoena or grants us the request for subpoena from ICE,
then they have to.
Then they have to.
All right. So let's say you're defending somebody on a deportation claim,
Yes.
right? What are you generally looking for to help make sure that your client is not put on a plane back to either Mexico or wherever they have to go back to? What are you doing to prevent the deportation itself?
It depends on many factors. If they qualify for the many reliefs that are available for undocumented immigrants. And I wanna point out that, which is what's going on in here. I think a lot of this is being said, well, because of this policy that we have right now that we're not cooperating, that the city doesn't cooperate with ICE, that's why this person went and
Right.
allegedly murdered somebody.
Well, let's
right.
talk about that. That's the whole reason, really, that everyone seems to be a little bit more on edge. We have somebody who wasn't supposed to be here legally, and he was let out, and he committed a murder. Correct?
Yes, he's suspected and charged with murder.
All right.
So it is important to know that, yes, the person was previously released while he was pending, well, he had assault charges pending. And while he was released on those charges, that's when he is suspected of having committed this murder. And I said, well, if you would have complied with the detainer order,
We would have had him deported.
we
He
would have
back
had
in
him
his-
at least detained.
Detained at the very least.
Detained, and he wouldn't have been roaming the streets. But I want to point out that even if immigration stepped in and detained him while his criminal case was pending, that does not mean that he could have gotten bail also from an immigration attorney. So blaming now the city really is not necessarily the correct thing, because an immigration judge could have also let him out.
Right. But wearing the other hat for a second, I guess, some of the people who are living here, it's bad enough if somebody is committing crimes or murders, but if they're not supposed to be in the country at all to begin with and they're committing it, I think it becomes a little bit more heinous. Where do you see this going?
I think it definitely opens the conversation to maybe the possibility of amending the current law that we have in New York, to open it not only for people that actually have been convicted of a serious crime, but maybe have pending charges that are particularly serious and heinous.
Yeah, so maybe if the crime is so heinous, the felonies of a certain level, that would be something where a judge would say, fine, I'll give you the information as to whether this person is really here legally or not legally. If it's for a misdemeanor, I'm not going to do it. Does that sound like something that may happen?
Yes. Again, I don't know the specifics of what the assault charges that he originally had, so maybe those assault charges were not even that violent, or they might have been a minor offense.
Listen, whether I'm a fan or not a fan of the Trump administration, obviously this is all coming down pretty hard on New York. You could say it's political. If there's a new administration that comes in, are you hopeful that there won't be as much, pressure on New York State judges to have to give this information out?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I said, this seems to be ICE's last resource to get information. This is not something that they do every day. They claim that they have been asking over and over for this information from the local authorities, and they just have ignored and refused to give it.
Well, obviously, this is not an issue that's going to go away anytime soon. We expect you back here in the next 6 months to give us a little bit of an update, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us, and of course you, the viewers, for watching. If you missed any part of today's show, be sure to check it out at www.bronxnet.tv. And also remember, if there is a legal issue or topic you'd like to see on a future edition of Today's Verdict, feel free to contact me at davidlesch@bronxnet.org or tweet us at Today's Verdict, and make sure to hashtag #AskToday'sVerdict. From myself and all of us here at the station, please always remember, know your rights, know your issues, reach your verdict. We'll see you next time.